In today's video, I'm going to be going over some different ETFs that investors can use to construct a very good dividend portfolio, in my opinion. And the ETFs we're going to be going over, you see two here. It is a combination of SCHD and JEPI. And then I'm also going to be going over another ETF combination that I believe would be good for dividend growth, while what you're seeing right now is good for dividend income or yield. And there are many different types of ETFs out there and many different types of portfolios. I believe simpler is better, and basically construct a portfolio with only two ETFs and you'll be sufficiently diversified. So I'm going to be going over these ETF combinations and tell you kind of about their methodologies, each individual ETF, and also how they work as a portfolio. And if you do appreciate this content, please remember to give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed for future content. So the first ETF combo that I was speaking about that I already mentioned is a combination between SCHD and JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF, and SCHD being the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. I believe that this offers a great combination of yield and diversity. So SCHD is basically a dividend growth and dividend yield ETF. It combines the best of both worlds. A very common ETF. Pretty much every dividend investor knows about it. So I'm not going to go and talk too much in depth about it, but I am going to say that basically the fund's goal is to track as closely as possible, before fees and expenses, the total return of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. And basically what this is an index that selects a group of companies that have a history of growing their dividends over time, and then further screens them based on financial ratios to pick the best of the group. So a little bit about the top 10 holdings. Overall, it is a very diversified ETF on its own. It pretty much has every single industry you can think of, minus REITs. So some of the top 10 holdings: Chevron, Lockheed Martin, Texas Instruments, and then down to the bottom, you see Bristol Myers Squibb, Coca-Cola, and Pfizer. All of these companies are very quality companies, and they have a long track record of increasing their dividends over time. And several of them do offer pretty high yield in itself. So as a dividend investor, you're probably looking for dividend metrics, and these metrics do change over time, but currently the current yield of SCHD is 3.42%, which is somewhat high for a dividend ETF. Of course, there are many ETFs out there that pay higher than that, but when it comes to an ETF that grows its dividend over the past 12 years and at a rate of 11.8%, for an average 5-year growth rate, it is a great combination of dividend yield and dividend growth together. And the second ETF is JEPI, or the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF. This ETF offers a great yield and also relative price stability over time. A little bit about how this ETF operates. It generates monthly income through a combination of selling options and investing in US large cap stocks, seeking to deliver a monthly income stream from associated option premiums and stock dividends. And of course, it constructs a diversified, low volatility equity portfolio through proprietary research process designed to identify over and undervalued stocks with attractive risk and return characteristics. Overall, it attempts to track the performance of the S&P 500 index with less volatility in addition to monthly income. This ETF also provides quite a bit of diversity on its own as well. The top 10 holdings are closely grouped, with no holding really outside of 0.5% variance between the other. So a few of these holdings: Amazon, Progressive, Microsoft, and then down at the bottom you have ExxonMobil, Visa, and AbbVie. Overall, covers quite a few industries and provides great diversity. So about the dividend metrics, you aren't going to see any dividend growth really over time, because that's not the way this ETF operates. It uses equity linked notes to give you basically options income instead of your typical investment methodology of a dividend ETF. What that is going to do is definitely increase the yield quite a bit. With JEPI, you have a dividend yield of 7.52%. Quite high for a dividend ETF, and this ETF also does pay monthly, so you are going to get those very good frequent dividend payments. A little bit about why this ETF combination works so well together is that there is very little overlap between the holdings overall. You do see some holdings similar, but overall it is not substantial. If you do look at the top 10, you hardly see any of these stocks within the top 10 of the other holding. So this is SCHD, just doing this for a visual. If you look at this and then look at JEPI, you definitely don't see too much overlap. You definitely don't see too much overlap at all. So basically you get the great dividend growth and capital appreciation that SCHD offers, and you get the great yield and general price stability that JEPI offers when you pair these two together. Now, if you want to go for more yield, you could basically switch this around and do 60% JEPI and then 40% SCHD. If you want to go a little bit more for growth, you could do what I do and do 60% SCHD and 40% JEPI. Basically depends on your circumstance. I am a little bit younger, so I definitely go for more growth than yield. So what if you want more capital appreciation and dividend growth together instead of that income that JEPI offers? The next ETF is an ETF that I own, and it also will provide great diversification, and it will also provide a great amount of capital appreciation with an increasing dividend. And that ETF is VIG, or the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. This ETF basically operates somewhat similar to SCHD, but it kind of does not focus on high yielding stocks in its holdings. A little bit about its top 10 holdings. It is a very diversified ETF overall. You definitely know of many of the stocks that it holds. Top 3, Microsoft, Apple, and Broadcom. Bottom 3, MasterCard, Johnson & Johnson, and Home Depot. Very diversified in industries, and also very not so top heavy, with only about 25 to 30% of its holdings in the top 10, while SCHD has a bit more than that, and it is more diversified than the S&P 500 overall based on the top 10 weighting. And this ETF, looking at the dividend metrics, offers a dividend yield of 1.82%. Remember, this isn't meant to be a high yield dividend ETF. It is a dividend appreciation ETF. And this ETF does that rather well with a 5-year growth rate of 8.46%. And again, it has that great diversity to go along with it. And this ETF also offers a great complement to SCHD because there isn't a lot of overlap. I do believe there is a bit more overlap than the JEPI combination with SCHD. There is some overlap here, mainly because the investment methodology is somewhat similar, but not so much similar. So if you look at these top 10 holdings, you will see some similar holdings in the top 10, possibly of SCHD. This one rebalances somewhat frequently. So you will see some of those holdings in both ETFs, but overall there is very little holding overlap and overall very little weighting overlap between these two ETFs. Let me know if you own these ETFs. Also a little bit about your portfolio as a whole, how many ETFs you own. This was kind of just a quick video regarding on how to construct a very simple dividend portfolio with only 2 ETFs. I know some people's portfolios could be rather complicated. I try to prefer mine a little bit simpler because I think the diversity is enough with just 2 ETFs, especially if the holdings don't overlap. If you did appreciate this content, again, leave this video a like, and if you're not already subscribed, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you all in the next video.